Welcome, friends. My name is Silas Ollegario, and I'm the host of Think Onward, a podcast about books, studies, productivity, and lifestyle. Now, after the intro. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's that time of the week again. Time you tune in, and now we are together. It's so great to be here recording this episode while you're there listening and hopefully enjoying somehow. I want to take this intro to ask you for something. In case you have no idea, I have a YouTube channel, and I started the YouTube channel this year just as much as I started this podcast. And the first idea was to upload the podcast there. You know, every episode I do upload on YouTube, in case you didn't know that. So every Wednesday, you can catch this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Spotify, Amazon Music. But you can also listen to this podcast every week on YouTube. So I started the YouTube with this idea, but I also had this hope that someday I would be producing a different kind of content and uploading there. So that's what I'm also doing. So we have the same kind of content you have in here. You have similar content, and you have very different content there on my YouTube channel. So, for example, on this I upload a new video there every Saturday. And this last Saturday, I uploaded a video talking about a book review because I was reading The Hobbit by J.R. Tolkien in the month of April, and in the end of March I made the suggestion so we could read together the book, and I posted now the review and the suggestion for the next month for May. So this kind of content, and just so you know, in this month of May, I suggested we all could read the book called Onward. It was written by Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz is the owner and CEO and founder of Starbucks. So he tells his business ideas and his life story throughout the story of Starbucks. So it's a very interesting book. And that actually leads to today's episode here. I do have several suggestions, podcast suggestions for you. It is possible you already know these podcasts I'll suggest, but nonetheless, keep listening to the end because there might be one or two you haven't heard about, okay? Let's go. As you can probably know by now, in case you are here every week, I love productivity and books. But I'm also a pre-med student, which makes clear that medicine is another thing that I enjoy, obviously. And now that you've listened to the last episode of this podcast, and that you're going to also check my YouTube channel, you'll see that another passion of mine is music. I'm a drummer, as I said in the last episode. I have been playing the drums officially since I was 10 years old. I'm 32 right now. So it's been quite some time. I also like TV shows, movies, and this pop culture most people like. Even when they say they don't, they do. And so my suggestions may vary a lot. And please, take this as a good thing, okay? Because having a broader range of podcasts to listen is very enriching. That's how I see. Okay, so let's go. I don't want to take so long. My first suggestion is a podcast called Think Onward, presented by Silas Ollegario. I'm just kidding. Come on. That's the obvious number one suggestion, but really. There's no specific order, okay, on my list, just so I make this clear. I'm going to do this. I'll say the name, then I'm going to read, because I wrote it down. I'm going to read the description given by the hosts and then give my personal perspective. And based on all that, you can make a more informative oh my god, I don't know the word, but still you can have a better, you can make a decision based on more than one thing. Okay, yeah, that's it. Let's give it a try. Let's go. Number one, not overthinking, presented by Ali and Tamer Abdal. So the description: Not Overthinking is a podcast about happiness, creativity, and the human condition. It's us, Ali and Tamer Abdal, occasionally joined by guests, talking about things to help us think, do, and be better. Things like social interaction, lifestyle, design, mental models, things that are hard to examine but important to explore. And hopefully, things that make for a fun and interesting chat every week. Ali is a doctor and YouTuber. Tamer is a data scientist and writer. I said there was not a specific order, but I kind of know why I started with this. Not overthinking might be the reason I have this podcast myself. I follow Ali on YouTube for the past, I've been following him for the past 3 years, probably. He's huge, almost 2 million subscribers. And on his channel, he talks about so many things, from productivity to dating, from life as a doctor to desk setups and technology. And when he started the podcast with his brother, Tamer, my expectations were high, and I was not disappointed. One of the episodes they talk about they talk about starting your own podcast or YouTube channel. And when I listened to that one, I started thinking, about having my podcast. And most times they go really deep into these concepts and conversations. It's really nice. The thing that I enjoy, probably the thing that I enjoy the most, because it's nice listening to smart people having open conversation about something without the need of being right, because it's not a debate. It's just two brothers having their opinions on different subjects. Kind of what I try making here on Think Onward. I don't know, you've probably understood it by now. That's kind of my idea for this podcast. So that's it. Not overthinking. Very great. I tend to use more Apple Podcasts, sometimes Spotify, but you can probably catch them on everything. Like, just you can catch my podcast there. Okay. Suggestion number 2, the Shortcode podcast. Description: the honest guide to medical school that offers pre-med students, medical students, and healthcare learners of all kinds a window into what medicine and medical school is really like. Featuring real medical students from the University of Iowa Carver College of Medicine. This is a very specific, because it resonates in my heart better because I'm a pre-med student. So again, they are focused on pre-med students, medical students, and healthcare learners. But this today is the podcast I probably get more value from. Not just because I'm a pre-med and the subjects are so valid for me, but because I have so much fun while listening. Dave Etler is the main host. He's a doctor, and every episode there are students from first year, third year, fourth year, some who have just started and others who are already leaving medical school and moving on to residency. The subjects are incredibly interesting, especially if you like the healthcare field. From non-important topics like weird questions and answers on Yahoo Answers, to conversations and interviews with medical schools, deans, and etc. It's a very light show to listen to every week. They are on every Thursday. So it's a very nice, very interesting. I love what I noticed, that although podcasts have this range of like myself, most of the episodes I'm by myself here, but I have episodes that podcasts that the main focus is someone talking by him or by herself. And sometimes I have a conversation always with the same person. Sometimes I have guests, different guests. And this one is a kind of podcast that you you kind of feel like you're at a table talking to your friends because there are normally 4 or 5 people in the conversation. So for 1 hour, they talk about this topics they decide, and it's very, very interesting, very nice. So a great show to go and check it out. It's the Shortcode podcast. Okay, and just one thing, in case you don't know, why the Shortcode? Because in medical school, sometimes people don't understand this, but when you have a difficulty when you go to a hospital, knowing who is a doctor, who is a nurse, who is a medical student, doctors wear long coats. Okay, the coats they are long sleeves, but they go until like almost to their knees. While students, they wear short coats, and so it's kind of easier to know who's who based on that. So that's why the name is the Shortcode podcast. Very good. Suggestion number 3 is Smartless. Description, I'm sorry. Smartless is a comedy-based podcast starring Sean Hayes, Jason Bateman, and Will Arnett. The conceit of the show is that for each episode, one of the 3 hosts brings on a guest that is a surprise to the other 2 hosts. What ensues is an organic, casual, laugh-filled discussion whereby the hosts and the listeners learn something new from or about the guests that they never knew before. Guests so far have included Will Ferrell, Dax Shepard, Robert Downey Jr., Maya Rudolph, the Senator and now Vice President Kamala Harris, Seth Rogen, Melissa McCarthy, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, Adam Sandler, Jennifer Aniston, George Clooney, Paul McCartney, Reese Witherspoon, so many guests. In case you don't get why so many huge and famous people, the reason are the hosts. There are 3 huge Hollywood actors, friends for so many years to each other, and so casual about each other. Seriously, this idea of inviting someone for a talk with your friends, when your friends might know this person, but they have no idea who the guest is. I mean, the idea is simply excellent. And you can always expect something very interesting. It's nice because I feel when I listen to, like, I know these actors and guests in a very different kind of way every time I listen to a podcast, to an episode. It's very, very interesting. So they go into deep conversations sometimes about their careers, sometimes about their marriages, the kids, or sometimes even about politics. And they are not they are sensitive on talking about anything the guest wants to talk about. So it's very, very nice. Smartless. Okay. Suggestion number 4. My pre-med years. Description. There's a lot of information online about medical school, but it's all over the place. Medical school headquarters.net provides you with up-to-date information about getting into and excelling in medical school and matching into the residency of your dreams. This is the definition for medical school headquarters. Pre-med years is like a spin-off from this YouTube channel and podcast presented by the same host, Dr. Ryan Gray. Sometimes conversations, but most of the times answering questions from listeners about the whole medical school and pre-med thing that you might not be familiar with. And it's very daunting and difficult to understand in case you're not in the field or wanting to go in the field, in case you are trying to figure out, okay, I think I want to be a doctor. What is the path I should go to, And it's a much more technical podcast when comparing to the Shortcode podcast. It's less, I want to say, entertaining, but just as valid in case you are someone like me who is in the process of becoming a physician. So it's a very nice, more technical, but definitely interesting podcast. So my pre-med years, very good. Suggestion number 5, The Ground Up Show. Description. The Ground Up Show is a weekly podcast that inspires creatives to make things happen. award-winning filmmaker Magiavelo from from Minimalist, the Netflix documentary. Magiavelo talks with comedians, athletes, rappers, and other creatives who talk about how to get things done. With over 2 million downloads, these candid conversations have helped inspire thousands of listeners to pursue their passions. This is a weird suggestion for one reason. This podcast does not have new uploads since 2019. Magiavella, in case you don't know, is a gigantic YouTuber, over 3 million subscribers. He talks about many things. I enjoy, like for example, he talks about habits, productivity, filmmaking, but all these on his channel on YouTube. And because he loves coffee, the Ground Up Show has this name. But here on the podcast, interviews are the thing, you know. He interviews book authors, other YouTubers, businessmen, businesswomen, and the reason I suggested is because although not a single new episode has been uploaded since 2019, I haven't finished listening to all the episodes that are already there, and the amount of knowledge I'm gathering by listening to this podcast and everything he talks about is so incredible, and getting to know, because again, every time I listen to a podcast, I feel like it's different than when we are watching something on YouTube. Of course, podcasts in YouTube is different, but I even sometimes it's the same person, but I kind of feel like I'm knowing another side of this person, of this YouTuber, of this podcaster, or this actor, or whoever. And on this show, well, I think this is probably one of the most interesting podcasts I've listened to in the last 2 years. And so these are my suggestions for today's episode. These are among the podcasts I listen to, because I don't listen only to these podcasts, but these are definitely my top 5. I could mention the Joe Rogan Experience here either, but these previously mentioned are the ones I listen without missing a single episode. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Remember to share this podcast with your friends. Also, go and check my YouTube channel. You know, different subjects, similar subjects. In there, the interaction is different, but it still exists. And another important note: stay safe, protect your family and your loved ones. Keep listening to Think Onward, and have an amazing week. Bye.